After leaving the Bardenas Reales National Park, we continued through Spain on our way to meet Leanne and Phil. We drove on through the desert and dust and stopped regularly to get out and stretch our legs.
After finding a great park just outside the town, we walked into the town to do some busking. On the way, we stopped at a music shop to buy picks. Then we left in search of the aqueduct. Finally, we found it in the central square, which was right next to an information centre. Dad said we should go into the information centre and get some brochures about the aqueduct. The lady in there gave us a brochure and each of us kids a quiz while you walked around the town. The Aqueduct of Segovia, or more accurately, the Aqueduct Bridge, is a Roman aqueduct in Segovia, Spain. It is one of the best preserved elevated Roman aqueducts. The date of the aqueduct's construction was a long mystery, although it was thought to have been built during the 1st century AD. The amazing thing is, it contains no mortar. It's stone locked together with clever engineering. The aqueduct once transported water from the Rio Frio River, situated in the mountains 17 kilometers from Segovia. It runs 15 kilometers before arriving the city.
We packed up and left Segovia to go to Avila and meet Leanne and Phil. Avila is a beautiful walled town and has lots of people walking around the town, looking at the sights. We started driving and arrived in about an hour. We were very excited, walking along the narrow streets talking. We walked past lots of shops and bars, then arrived at the main centre and saw Phil poking his head out the apartment window.
Oh, Nutcracker? No. No, that's why it's got the extra thing on it.
I don't think so.
Anna, get back. There was lots of it on mine.
There we go.
Oh, that one's fallen down.
After leaving Avila, we went to Toledo and luckily found a band that was setting up a free concert outside the cathedral. The singer was called Victor Trecho.
Just killed a man.
Que pisa la ciudad sin tu permiso, que sacará tus cosas de la calle, tu enemigo.
Your heart in his eyes of every night of every day. La luce che tu dai.
I pray we find your light.
Never gonna take you out. Never gonna
actually. Oh, it's a tornado. Whoa, hold it, guys.
Oh my god! We were driving along the road when we saw a small but strong twister. We drove past it and it gave us a big shake. We arrived at our destination by a lake and went for a swim.
I love it when you flex like that. Slow, fast, up, down, bring it back.
Got to make sure we can see it's you.
Okay, Mr. Gracci, ready? Cheers.
We parked in Cordoba and went for a walk. After a bit of a wrestle in the grass, we walked around the town. It's famous for the church that was originally built as a mosque when the Arabs were in power and converted to Christian when the Spanish won Spain back. There is also a massive Roman bridge that is really old, but they built it so well that cars, trucks and people can walk across. When we arrived back, it was quite dark and we had dinner and went to bed.
Now we've got the strangest thing out there on the horizon, we don't know what it is. It's a big, bright, burning thing or light or reflecting thing. Yet to be confirmed. We were driving towards Cadiz and we saw a very intensely bright light in the sky. We got closer and we found that it wasn't a chimney burning off fuel. We stopped and googled it and apparently it's a solar project and there's thousands of mirrors circled around this 40-story pole, all focusing the sun's light onto the top of it and converting it to energy. It's really quite sci-fi.
The PS10 solar tower is an 11 megawatt solar power tower producing electricity with its 642 large movable mirrors called helostats. It took 4 years to build and has cost 35 million euros.
After arriving in Seville, we walked just over the road to a huge palace. There were a few flamenco guitarists and singers, so we watched them for a bit. We watched some people in a small canal row a rowboat and laughed as they crashed into each other. We also saw the horses and carriages do laps around the fountain and had to tell Ashley to stop screaming with excitement because she kept on squawking when she saw a horse.
We went for a walk in Seville and went to the biggest Christian cathedral by volume. Inside, there is a monumental tomb for Christopher Columbus containing some of his bones. It took years to prove they were actually his bones because his body was moved from where he died in northern Spain and people didn't believe the bones in the tomb were his. We were driving along when out our window we saw a truck on the side of the road that had crashed and was on its side. The driver looked worried sitting on the truck's wheel. We arrived at Cadiz and went to a surf beach. He found it was too rough and weedy at the beach, so he decided to go to a different one.
I'm gonna pull a finger and stop you putting this in.
Temperature change alert.
No.
Anger cam. Anger cam. Anger cam. Anger cam.
Yeah.
Anger cam.
Mama, do you know what?
Anger cam.
Oh my god.
We didn't like the surf beach, so we found a better sheltered place with a sandy beach, and it was awesome.
After a quiet night's sleep, we drove to Cadiz over the suspension bridge, which was about 2 kilometers long. It's a pretty neat bridge, and we thought they designed it to look like sails from a distance. We found a car park and we walked about 5 kilometres to a jetty where we walked to an old fort.
Cadiz was about as close to the equator as we were going, and we hopped out of the motorhome for a walk in about 40 degrees. Founded in 1104 BC as Gadir or Agadir by Phoenicians from Tyre, Cadiz is mostly regarded as the most ancient city still standing in Western Europe. The Phoenicians established a port in the 7th century BC. We gladly jumped back into our air-conditioned box and drove to our spot nearby.
There were some teenagers jumping off the jetty, and we also saw some kids who were doing flips off a board they had put in the sand.
We left Cadiz and drove a couple of hours to the Roman ruins at Bailio Claudia.
There's Africa across there, in the distance in the haze. We're just heading down to some Roman ruins.
Bailio Claudia is an old Roman town that had 3 temples to different gods. We learned that the Romans plumbed metal pipes that supplied water around the town, and they had a series of oily, hot and cold baths that they washed in frequently. The town was struck by an earthquake and was rebuilt and still functioned, but was flattened by another earthquake a while later, and they let it fall into a state of disrepair.
We left the Roman ruins and started heading towards Sierra Nevada and stopped at an awesome lake with another really sandy beach.
Hey, man. What are you doing? We're here.
To lake time. Yeah, lake time. Yeah, lake time. Lake time. Lake time. Take it turn about. Lake time. Light time.
Bear right onto Avenida de Sombrero de Tres Picos.
What is it? What is it?
In 500 meters, at the roundabout, take...
We arrived at the lake and had a nice time playing in the sun. We were having a good morning at the lake, swimming and playing in the warm water, when we heard the drone of plane engines overhead and looked up to see some firefighting planes practicing their runs and accuracy. They were flying really low.
The yellow Spanish firefighting planes were called the Air Tractor Fireboss. They have a 1,400-litre fuel capacity, giving them 4 hours flight time. When they skim across a lake, they scoop up 3,000 litres of water to drop onto a fire.